Barr Bashes Comey. That is the topic of today's op-ed live. So Fox News came out with this, that John Durham's investigation, U.S. District Attorney from Connecticut, John Durham's investigation into possible FBI conduct is now a criminal probe. So New York Times actually broke this story last week, but not a lot of mainstream media picked this story up, including probably even our paper, Korea Daily, and also LA Times or USA Today. They did not pick up this huge news. I think this is the biggest news that happened in 2019 in the political world. So Fox News goes on like this. U.S. Attorney John Durham's ongoing probe into potential FBI and Justice Department misconduct in the run-up to the 2016 election through the spring of 2017 has transitioned into a full-fledged criminal investigation. Two sources familiar with the investigation told Fox News last Thursday. So, this means that somebody must have fabricated this Trump-Russia collusion narrative. And it seems like John Durham, you see him right here, he found some criminal evidence. That's why he changed this. Now, there's no reason why they changed it from an administration review to criminal investigation, unless he found something that was criminal, that has to be probably criminal activity. So it goes on with this. One source added that DOJ Inspector General Michael Horowitz's upcoming report, we're all waiting on him. We've been waiting actually a whole year long. Michael Horowitz, Inspector General report. So Michael Horowitz's upcoming report on alleged FBI surveillance abuses against the Trump campaign will shed light on why Durham's probe has become a criminal inquiry. And Horowitz announced it actually last week. His report would be available to the public soon with few redactions, which is very good news. Because we all know, if you are fair and if you want real news, you all know that the Trump-Russia collusion thing was completely fabricated by the other side, probably the Clinton people and the DNC people. Okay, they were the ones who funded the Christopher Steele dossier, right? And Christopher Steele, the former MI6 agent, he couldn't verify whether this dossier was real or not. Yet they used this to wiretap Trump campaign. Probably Trump was also, recorded, eavesdropped on. Okay, this is the real collusion between the Intelligence Committee and the DNC and the Hillary Clinton campaign. This is so heinous. All of you have to know it. Spread this news about Trump being spied on, wiretapped. Everybody has to know this. Yet so many people don't, because the mainstream media has fallen to fake news media. That's the reason why many people still to this day, do not know what really happened. And Trump accused Obama for spying on him, that it was treasonous. Drudge Report came out with that last Friday. So it goes. I'll continue. The investigation's new status means Durham can subpoena witnesses, file charges, and impanel fact-finding grand juries. This is some serious stuff. I bet James Comey, James Clapper, John Brennan, they are shaking. They are shaking right now. Like what Judge Jeanine Pirro said, they're shaking to their boots. I can really see them shaking. This is really some scary stuff for them, for the deep state. We have to know that they are deep state. James Comey, James Clapper, John Brennan. They were the one who concocted this whole Russia collusion nonsense. And not just that, they used other countries when they spied on George Papadopoulos, Carter Page. They used other nations, like for instance Australia, Italy, okay, Great Britain. They use these foreign intelligence communities' power to spy on these people. This is really, I think every American should know this. Every American, not just every American, everybody in the world has to know this. That Trump was wrongfully accused and framed from the get-go by the deep state. Okay. So the investigation's new status means Durham can subpoena witnesses, file charges, and impanel fact-finding grand juries. And Fox News reported that Durham's probe had expanded significantly based on new evidence uncovered during a recent trip to Rome with Attorney General Bill Barr. Okay? So William Barr and John Durham, they went to Italy. Why? Because they spied on Trump's campaign people, okay? And they wanted to know what has been going on. And it seems like Italy is cooperating. It goes on. Barr reportedly told embassy officials in Italy that he needed a conference room to meet high-level Italian security agents where he could be sure no one was listening in. Okay? Needed a conference room. I think this part is the most scariest part for the deep state, right? Barr reportedly told embassy officials in Italy that he needed a conference room to meet high-level Italian security agents where he could be sure no one was listening in. Okay? So that there might be no leaking happening here, okay? And a source in the Italian Ministry of Justice told the Daily Beast earlier this month that Barr and Durham were played a taped deposition made by Joseph Mifsud. Okay, Joseph Mifsud is the professor who allegedly told ex-Trump aide George Papadopoulos that the Russians had dirt on Hillary Clinton. So it was George Mifsud who feeded this information to Trump aide, former Trump aide, George Papadopoulos. Yet the media and the Democrats and the deep state, they were claiming all along that it was George Papadopoulos who concocted a collusion with Russia. So this whole thing, this is so heinous on their part. They're the ones who come up with this fake narrative, but they pretend that it was George Papadopoulos who came up with this. Okay? Mifsud reportedly was explaining to investigators in the deposition why people would want to harm him and why he needed police protection. So Mifsud is telling, we don't know where he is right now. George Papadopoulos, he came out in Fox News, Trish Regan, Fox News Business, and he said he doesn't know where he is right now. He believes that Mifsud, Joseph Mifsud, is a operative working for CIA or FBI, and he might be an Italian. That's as far as he went. I believe that he is a FBI or a CIA agent, operative, and he was planted to spy on Trump, to create this fake, phony, and false Russia collusion narrative. So sources told Fox News that John Durham was very interested to question former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper and former CIA Director John Brennan, an anti-Trump critic who recently dismissed the idea. So James Clapper, he came out on CNN last Friday during Anderson Cooper's show, and he seems very nervous. He couldn't even finish a sentence. He said, probably they might be investigating me. That's pretty much what he said. Yeah, I bet. They should investigate you, man. You did all this heinous criminal stuff. We cannot let these individuals get away with this. We just can't. We just can't. James Clapper, James Comey, John Brennan, they should be investigated, okay? It wasn't even this news was not even reported by Fox News. It was reported by the New York Times. It was on front page, okay, on Friday. The New York Times reported Thursday that Durham's criminal review has prompted some CIA officials to obtain criminal legal counsel in anticipation of being interviewed. So this is some serious stuff, okay? You can see CNN, MSNBC crying out loud, "Oh, this is foul play," that William Barr has to be recused. You see all these Democrats running crazy, like Dianne Feinstein and Cory Booker. These people are screaming, like Blumenthal. These senators are screaming like, "Oh, we need to recuse William Barr, the Attorney General. He should recuse himself from this case." Why? Why does he? He is not Jeff Sessions, okay? He is not. They're going to play their narrative. The media is going to play their narrative. I think probably they're going to go all the way through. And the righteous people, the patriots, we're going to play the narrative. And let's see who wins. Let's see who wins. The truth will set us free. And I think this whole thing will come about. It's going to be all exposed. All the deep state stuff they're going to be exposed. And I believe it's going to go all the way up to Obama. I really do. Because Obama was mentioned in the text messages between Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. And I already told you, if you don't know Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, you have to know who they are. Because the text messages between them tells you a lot of important stories. And one of them was POTUS wants to know everything, right? POTUS meaning Barack Obama, President of the United States. I think he knew everything. It might be even him who ordered this whole thing. We don't know. But probably, I think there's a possibility that Obama is going to get investigated. I just don't see any other way at this point. And John Durham, he is a nonpartisan guy. He is definitely not a political guy. He even worked under Eric Holder, who was a former AG working under Barack Obama, okay? So you can't say this is partisan, oh, this is, they're Trump's henchmen or something like that. They can play their narrative, let them play their narrative, and let the patriots play our narrative, okay? And get the bad guys. And I believe they are bad guys. James Clapper, James Comey, John Brennan. These individuals must be investigated for this Russia collusion. They wasted so much time, so much of Americans' time, the past 3-4 years. This whole thing was fabricated from the get-go. And I told you right off the bat when this whole thing happened, okay? So Brennan and Clapper were at the helm not only when Mifsud spoke to Papadopoulos, but also when an unverified and largely discredited dossier, the Christopher Steele dossier, written by British ex-spy Christopher Steele and funded by the Hillary Clinton campaign and the DNC, was used to help justify a secret surveillance warrant against former Trump advisor Carter Page in the run-up to the 2016 election. Yeah, this was reported by the Washington Post, okay? This is not just a right-wing report, okay? The discredited dossier was funded by the Hillary Clinton campaign and the Democratic National Committee. You got to know that, okay? So the FBI apparently obscured the fact that the Clinton campaign and the DNC funded the dossier in its warrant application, telling the secret court only that the dossier was prepared at the behest of an unidentified presidential campaign, which means that they did not reveal this fact that Hillary and DNC was behind the dossier. Okay, they funded this. They did not reveal this fact, and they just said that it was a political opponent of Trump. I think that's just how they played it, which is very heinous on their part, right? They should have revealed that it was Trump's presidential opponent, Hillary, right? And probably the judge would have just squashed it right away, and say, oh, you're not going to wiretap Carter Page on that one, okay? Additionally, in its original FISA application and subsequent renewals, the FBI told the FISA court it did not believe Steele was a direct source for a Yahoo News article implicating Page in Russian collusion. Instead, the FBI suggested to the secret court the September 2016 article by Michael Isikoff. Michael Isikoff was working for Yahoo News at that time. It was independent corroboration of the dossier. But London court records showed that contrary to the FBI's assessments, Steele briefed Yahoo News and other reporters in the fall of 2016 at the direction of Fusion GPS. So William Barr, he came out bashing James Comey. Because why? Because James Comey was saying this whole thing is just conspiracy theory. That William Barr, is just doing a witch hunt on them, on the deep state, on the intelligence committee, which is completely ridiculous. Okay, so there's a new report that came out 6 hours ago. The Barr defense Durham probe rips Comey FBI for failure of leadership. Okay, Attorney General Bill Barr, he had an interview with Fox News. He defended the independence and integrity of the political contentious probe being led by U.S. Attorney James Comey into the handling of the Russia investigation. So why don't you ask yourselves, if Russia collusion thing, the Russia scandal was fake, even Robert Mueller said he couldn't find any evidence between collusion of Trump or Russia, then don't you want to know who fabricated this whole thing? If the possibility is out there of fabrication? Of course you do. Of course you do. Yet, if you listen to individuals like Rachel Maddow and all these far-left goons like Joe Scarborough. This whole thing is a conspiracy theory. Why is it a conspiracy theory? The Trump-Russia collusion thing was a conspiracy theory, not what John Durham and William Barr is doing. No, what they're doing is righteous and it's necessary. It's the most important investigation probably in decades to correct America's course, okay? If we don't correct this, then nobody's going to believe the Constitution. You know, everything depends on this. So I believe right now at this period of time, John Durham, William Barr, these two individuals might be even more important than President Trump right now. It's all up to them whether America is going to correct their course, all the wrongdoings that has been done by the previous administration. So Fox News reported last week that the probe into the 2016 origins of the Russia meddling case has escalated from a review to a criminal investigation. Okay? A development that spurred Democratic claims that the department was becoming a tool for President Trump's political revenge. Really? How about Eric Holder then, during the Fast and Furious case? This has nothing to do with political revenge. This has everything to do about finding out the truth. It's not about left or right. It's about right or wrong. That's what this is, okay? This whole thing. So Barr, speaking Monday to Fox News on the sidelines of a law enforcement event in Chicago, rejected Democrats' claim he is acting as Trump's personal lawyer. That's completely wrong. This is what Barr said. Everybody has to listen to this. That's completely wrong, and there is no basis for it, and I act on behalf of the United States. Okay? The Attorney General said that while he's assisting in connecting Durham with countries that could have valuable information, Durham is running the show. So John Durham, which is a non-political guy, okay? He worked under Democrats, he worked under Republicans. Obama, he worked under Obama, I think he worked under Bush. Now, Trump administration. Okay. The Democrats, they're running out of cards. That's why they're doing this impeachment. This impeachment thing is also another hoax, a witch hunt. Nothing's going to come out of it. The Democrats know it. They know they don't even have the votes. That's why they didn't even hold the votes. And they're doing this wrongful investigation right now. So Barr said he's in charge, Durham is in charge of the investigation. I'm not doing the investigation, okay? And he described Durham, the U.S. Attorney for Connecticut, as thorough and fair. And he said he's making progress. So I bet James Comey is shaking to his boots, okay? Further, Barr took an implicit swipe at Comey as he maintained current FBI Director Christopher Wray is cooperating. This is what he said, okay? I do want to say that one of the reasons Mr. Durham is able to make the kind of progress he's making is because Director Wray and his team at the FBI have been outstanding in support and responsiveness given to Mr. Durham. As you know, I said previously that I felt there was a failure of leadership at the Bureau in 2016, which means James Comey was a horrible FBI director. So Trump did a marvelous job for firing him. He did a patriotic job for firing an individual, a corrupt individual like James Comey. And this is my analysis, okay, that part. But as you know, I've said previously that I felt there was a failure of leadership at the Bureau in 2016 and part of 2017. But since Director Wray and his team have taken over, there's been a world of change. Wow. Barr did bash Comey, right, on this. And he continues, I think that he is restoring the steady professionalism that's been a hallmark of the FBI. I really appreciate his leadership there, okay? So, the truth is going to come out. James Comey, James Clapper, John Brennan, they're scared. I think Hillary Clinton's scared, and I believe Barack Obama's scared too, because I think they all knew what was going on. Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, I think they're scared too. Andy McCabe's scared, okay? Sally Yates, anybody who were involved in this wrongful wiretapping on Carter Page or, spying on Trump campaign, whether it's Joseph Mifsud, whether it's Stephen Halford, all of them, all of these, people, they're going to have to be investigated, and they're going to have to pay for what they did. They're going to have to, because everybody knows. I mean, at least more than half of Americans know at this point, I believe, other than the people who just, get their news nutritions from New York Times, Washington Post, or CNN. Even New York Times covered it, by the way. I have to give them credit. Even though they took a swipe that Trump might aim his political enemy with this. That was completely unnecessary to add that sentence in their title on the front page. But anyway, they did report it. I give credit to that. WAPO, CNN, they didn't report. I think they did also starting begrudgingly, reporting this, and the truth will come out. And you know what Sean Hannity said? Sean Hannity said it will shock the conscience and soul of American people, because most people do not know all the things that I told you throughout my show. Okay. Most people don't. They don't even know who Peter Strzok and Lisa Page is. So that's why I tell people, hey, do you know Peter Strzok? Do you know Lisa Page? Do you know Michael Horowitz, the Inspector General? You got to know it. You got to know it. Because that's where you can find all these wrongdoings, not just by the mainstream media, but the Democrats and the deep state, okay? So USA Today also came out with this. Hey, look at this. So this is why I always tell you, don't just believe and just don't take their words for it. I'm talking about the mainstream media. Why? This came out from USA Today. The Washington Post faces backlash for headline calling ISIS terrorist austere religious scholar. Can you believe this? The Washington Post is facing backlash after a headline characterized the Islamic State leader who was killed in a U.S. raid over the weekend as an austere religious scholar. The headline was quickly changed, but critics say it sugarcoated the terror inflicted by Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. You know that he died, right, throughout the last weekend. President Donald Trump announced Sunday morning that al-Baghdadi was killed when he detonated a vest he was wearing after being cornered by United States forces on Saturday evening. Okay. If you look at Washington Post, it seems like they are saddened by one of their own died. It kind of feels that way, Why did they have to put it like this? Obituary, and they even put it in the obituary. Can you believe that? So Steve Scalise, who's a whip in the Republican Party, in the congressional side, he came out on Twitter with this. Every day, the Washington Post uses harsher words against at real Donald Trump than they do in writing about one of the world's most evil terrorists. Yet we're supposed to take them at face value. Let that sink in. You know what I think? I think the Washington Post would rather side with these, Abu Baghdadi, al-Baghdadi terrorists rather than Trump. That's how much these people are deranged. Huh? That's why they call it Trump derangement syndrome. They're really suffering from it. Okay? And Donald Trump Jr. tweeted this: enemy of the people. With headlines like this and the fact that the Washington Post and others in the MSM have harsher criticism for the President of the United States than they do for the leader of ISIS, a known serial rapist and murderer, you really have to start to wonder. You have to wonder how horrible the Washington Post is. That's what he's trying to say. Okay, let's check out some headlines and Twitter feeds. So Jerome Corsi, PhD, I think he was also investigated by Robert Mueller, right? Special counsel Robert Mueller. He avoided jail time. He came out with, it's actually from True Pundit. True Pundit is much more reliable, by the way, than the New York Times or Washington Post. So it goes like this. Report shocking FBI love triangle. FBI Director McCabe had affair with top FBI lawyer Lisa Page. So she's screwing around here and there, right? Who also had affair with FBI boss Peter Strzok. True Pundit. You got to know these three individuals. Okay. So report shocking FBI love triangle. This is getting very interesting. One America News Network is reporting that Andrew McCabe had an affair with his subordinate Lisa Page, who was also reportedly having an affair with Peter Strzok. Okay. So it's not True Pundit. It's coming from One America News Network, which is a conservative TV network. Okay, let's move on to the next page. Cheryl Atkinson, she is an award-winning investigative reporter who used to work for CBS. I think now she's a freelance reporter, I believe. She came out with this. That's not the title for al-Baghdadi that came to my mind, but I'm just a regular person. What do I know? She's talking about the Washington Post ridiculous title that I was talking about. And Buck Sexton, who also has a podcast, he tweeted this: democracy dies in wait a second, has the Post lost its damn mind. Yeah, I think they did lose their damn mind. Washington Post, NYT, CNN, all of them. Let's move on to the next page. Charlie Kirk from Turning Point USA. The experts in the MSM and Democrats in Congress said that President Trump's peace plan in Syria would lead to the resurgence of ISIS. Really? But tonight, America killed Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, one of ISIS' most despicable leaders. When will we stop listening to these experts? He tweeted this last Saturday. By the way, the way Baghdadi killed Americans was so heinous. You know, it was just so heinous. If you look up, what kind of evil things he did, you will not come out with an obituary that Washington Post did. Okay, let's move on to the next page. Charlie Kirk, last week alone, President Trump took out the world's most dangerous terrorist, created a ceasefire in Syria, bringing at least temporary peace to a 200-year war. And he was still booed by the Washington elite. Doesn't that say more about them than it does about Trump? Trump was booed, by the way, yesterday because there was a World Series that played in Washington Nationals home stadium, and President Trump showed up. He didn't throw the ball, but he showed up, and people did boo because it's a swamp. Washington, D.C. is a place where 96% of their constituents voted for Hillary. Okay? And Trump only got 4%, so what do you expect? It's a swamp. That's the place where Trump is trying to drain, right? So, of course, you had a bunch of lobbyists, probably press people, and politicians there. So, of course, of course they wouldn't like Trump, who is fighting, I believe, for mid-Americans, middle-class Americans. Let's move on to the next page. Judicial Watch. They're doing a marvelous job against the deep state, right? The State Department utilized a powerful FB-owned, probably Facebook-owned, social media tracking tool linked to leftist billionaire George Soros to unlawfully monitor U.S. conservative figures, journalists, and persons with ties to Donald Trump, according to an agency source. Can you believe this? Let's move on to the next page. Okay, thank you, @real Donald Trump. You're a hero. One of the American citizens tweeted this, the Mrs. Be the plan. Despite being dragged through the mud 24/7, 365 days for 3 years, this man has achieved more than any other president in history. Lowest ever unemployment for all races and both sexes, highest salaries, low taxes, ending decades-long wars, which he did, and beginning to restore moral, spiritual, and physical well-being of our people, our children. Thank you, Mr. President. You are a true leader and a hero. Let's move on to the next page. Kimberly Strassel from Wall Street Journal. I highly recommend all of you guys to check out her columns, in which Comey, subject of 2 scathing IG reports, presumes to lecture John Durham on integrity and joins those seeking to delegitimize Bill Barr. Look at that on Washington Times. Okay, Comey says he's not worried about justice criminal. Former FBI Director James Comey said Saturday he's not worried about a Justice Department criminal probe into the reasons his office investigated. And he believes that John Durham would have integrity, which means, by the way, to him, is not investigating him. No, but if John Durham really had integrity, which I think he does, he will investigate him. I think he is under investigation. I believe James Comey will be charged, and I believe that he will go to jail. Let's go on to the next page. Donald Trump Jr. tweeted this: I'd wear getting booed in the swamp as a badge of honor. If you are pissing them off, you're doing something right. And you have a 22-second clip there. Trump attends baseball game. The audience boos make up of the audience. Trump there, Melania there, and I think John Ratcliffe, he's also there. It's kind of sad though to see the United States president, who is doing such a good job trying to fight for American people, being booed in Washington D.C. Even though it is a swamp city, it's kind of sad. It means that there are still people out there who are brainwashed by the media, or they do not want to believe the other side of the story. Either way. Let's move on to the next page. Okay, Terrence K. Williams, I think he's a black commentator. He said, "I'm disgusted. What disgrace. The Washington Post called the ISIS leader a religious scholar instead of a terrorist. They say nasty things about our highly educated President Donald Trump, but Baghdadi is a scholar to them? Retweet so the world can see this. WAPO death notices." Let's go on to the next page. The Epoch Times. Not that is one of the few news that are spreading real news. By the way, they are covering the FISA abuse heavily, and they also broke many news regarding China, the trade deal as well. So, not renewing subscriptions across all federal agencies will be a significant cost saving for taxpayers, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Trump's White House will tell federal agencies not to renew subscriptions to New York Times and Washington Post. You remember that, right? Last week he announced, the White House announced that they will not continue subscription of NYT and WAPO. And he's also asking all federal agencies to quit subscribing. So it will save taxpayers money. I think, it's a great thing because they have been spreading fake news for such a long time. Yeah, it's about time. Let's cancel it. Let's move on to the next page. Tom Fitton from Judicial Watch. Looks like Judicial Watch caught Mayor Pete Buttigieg in a cover-up of his scheme to create special ID cards for illegal aliens, Swampways and South Bend. Why do these Democrats always fight for the rights of illegal immigrants and not their citizens? Don't you want to, or at least, legal residents? They always, it seems like they spend a lot of their energy to legalize or somehow make them part of American society. These illegal aliens, illegal immigrants. I don't know why Democrats are always focusing on that so much. This issue and the climate change. Climate change. I agree. I told you. I believe we need clean air, clean water, but not to the expense of what China is doing. Letting China do what they want to do, and outsourcing all American jobs out there. Not to that expense. I do not want American jobs sacrificing for China's benefit, okay? That's why Trump has been, I think he jokingly said it, this whole climate change issue was fabricated by China. I think he's using a hyperbole there, but there's some truth to that. Who's benefiting from all this? Who's benefiting from this, Paris Accord narrative or climate change narrative? Who is benefiting from it and who is taking the hit from it? I think it was the Americans who took a huge hit by pushing this global warming and climate change narrative, okay? If they have the same fervor to focus on China, on their environment regulations, then I'm going to be a huge proponent. But they never criticize China on that. Sometimes I actually had a debate with one of the lefties, and they said, China is doing a great job. Really? Why don't you ask South Koreans what's happening there? Okay? Because of the pollution that China is spreading out there, okay? Let's move on to the next page. Okay, that's it. All right. Okay, well, that's our show for today. Op-Ed Live is not about left or right. It's about what's right or wrong. So to stay up to date with our latest videos, make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel by clicking subscribe. Thanks for tuning in.